I think humor is very important in wrestling, uh, because you need it. Because there's not a lot of people who do it. Um, you like there could be so much drama in wrestling, which is amazing. I love it. Like, this past WrestleMania, the main event of the both main events of WrestleMania this year was like so high stakes drama. It was bonkers. The Rock shows up, Undertaker shows up, like Cody Rhodes is fighting for the belt. There was so much drama, and it was like a culmination of like 3 or 4 years of a story. That stuff is amazing, but also you need some levity in there. You need something, to kind of change, makes you bring in all your emotions.
Yeah, Oscar over here. Oscar is probably one of the more interesting people that I've met in a wrestling event, and he is the creator of Pugginhead. And to have seeing you in the Slam Portal match kind of made me realize like wrestling is very real. And even if it's a puppet along the way, and seeing how Puggin dominated the ring kind of surprises me. But thank you so much for having you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was I was very pleased to get your when you approached at the show, and then to get your email. I haven't done many interviews with Puggy, so this is a lot of fun. How'd that go, by the way? He can
it's I lost $10,000, but we'll move on. But especially with how Pugginhead came to be, I'm going to ask you as a person, like for you at least, like who did you look up to in wrestling growing up?
In wrestling, when I was a child, it definitely had evolved. It evolved. Like when I was a child, I was into Hogan because everybody my age was into Hogan. And then as you got older, I started thinking wanting that representation, even though I wasn't aware that what I wanted was representation, but I just knew that I wanted to connect more with people that were on television, So, when Rey Mysterio showed up in WCW and Eddie Guerrero showed up in WCW, me and my friends were like all about those guys. They were so cool, especially Eddie was so charismatic, it like half. Even though he was one of the best wrestlers ever, like half the stuff had nothing to do with wrestling. His character was so good, and Ray was just so amazing in the ring. And then I started gravitating towards like the kind of misfitty guys, like Mick Foley. I loved Mick Foley because he didn't look like a wrestler. Like traditionally, he didn't look like a wrestler, and I knew, I never made it, but I knew like if I were ever to make it like on television, like I would look more like Mick Foley than even Rey Mysterio or Eddie. Like I would look more, I can work out all day every day, and I'm still gonna be pudgy. It's just how it's been, my whole life. So I always gravitate towards those kind of guys. People just look different, and then also people that act different. Like some people originally they used to kind of roll their eyes at like Santino Marella. I absolutely loved Santino Marella. I thought his character was amazing. And his character was so good that at the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, people actually like for a split second believed he would become WWE champion, Right. And I thought that was so amazing. I loved it. And those moments, to me personally, those moments are almost as good as winning the belt itself, because like you need to create moments, And Santino has created many memorable moments that wrestling fans are going to remember forever. And it doesn't matter that none of them involve him actually winning like the world title, Like that doesn't matter. I think people put too much emphasis on that kind of stuff. So the characters, I really, really went towards gravitated towards characters in wrestling, silly people, and what really got me with my character is stuff outside wrestling. So I was a big fan of Jim Henson growing up. So I loved the Muppets. I loved, I grew up. I was a Sesame Street kid. I watched Sesame Street every day when I was a kid. I love that kind of stuff. And then when Jim Henson did things like Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, I saw that like he was doing things outside the box, Really,
Yes, he did. Yeah.
he was venturing outside the realm of what people consider normal for puppetry, and what they consider normal for him. And that's what I tried to do with that's what I try to do with Puggy, is um kind of just break the convention of what wrestling is, and just like shatter it, and where wrestling, I love wrestling, and it's to me, wrestling is one of the purest forms of storytelling. It's one of the best forms. It's so condensed. Good, evil, they're literally fighting in front of you.
Yeah.
And how do you know it's going to be a good fight? Because it's not real. They're making sure that you get an amazing fight. It's an exhibition. People, they're actually not on purpose. Like, nothing doesn't hurt in wrestling. Everything.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Everything hurts, but we do it to we do it with care and with love, and we do it to entertain the fans. And I thought in my head, like, what can I do to maximize my time in the ring, like my longevity in wrestling? Because I'm not the best. I'm not in the best shape as far as like a wrestler goes. I can put on a wrestling match. I'm not going to give you amazing moves and blow you like if I'm wrestling. I'm not going to blow you away with anything, but I'm going to tell you a really good story.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious, especially, and we've seen wrestlers who do blend in humor, especially in your approach. How does humor blend in wrestling, especially when you started creating Puggy down the line?
I think humor is very important in wrestling, because you need it. Because there's not a lot of people who do it. There could be so much drama in wrestling, which is amazing. I love it. Like, this past WrestleMania, the main event of the both main events of WrestleMania this year was like so high stakes drama. It was bonkers. The Rock shows up, Undertaker shows up, like Cody Rhodes is fighting for the belt. There was so much drama, and it was like a culmination of like 3 or 4 years of a story. That stuff is amazing, but also you need some levity in there. You need something, to kind of change, makes you bring in all your emotions. Like I know, like Sami Zayn is amazing in everything he does, but I know some people didn't like that he was wrestling Johnny Knoxville that one time at WrestleMania.
Yes, such a good match.
Some people didn't like it, but during the match, like, I defy people to tell me that match was not amazing. It was amazing. It was so fun, and like they had all the props, and it was so goofy, and everybody, you can hear the people laughing. Everybody was having a great freaking time, and then like Wee Man shows up, and Wee Man does a body, and he held the body slam up long enough for the people to go ape shit. He didn't just do it. He's like, I'm gonna hold it. You let the people turn to their friend and go, "What the fuck?" Like, oh, sorry. Can we
exactly.
Like,
don't worry, it's fine. We'll keep going.
Like, this is amazing. You give the people a chance to digest what's happening, but like, it was so funny, and it helped the overall show. I feel that you need that, and with Puggy, I try to not. I try, I do. We do the funny promos in the beginning, but during the match, I actually kind of try to play it as straight as possible, like it's as if it's like a wrestling match, which only adds to the absurdity, which only makes it funny. Any like move that Puggy does is funny because it's Puggy doing it. It's a little tiny guy.
I gotta bring this up though, because we had the match over with Taylor Combat over at Slam Portal. So I did expect, and again, Slam Portal, the main thing is it's someone mysterious. You never know who's going to show up. Then when Puggy's entrance music came in, I was like, who the heck is that? Out comes you with a puppet. I'm like, holy crap, this is gonna be happening. And throughout the match, and I'm curious especially how do you make the audience, and I certainly believe, and for the ones who are like first time viewers, I was the first time viewer, what would it take for you to say, this is Puggy, he is a real boy, and I'm gonna beat Space Tiger's butt?
Yeah. I don't make the people believe. The people believe. The people chose this. Like, and to be completely serious, when I started, because I've been performing Puggy for like 7 or 8 years now, and the first year of Puggy, my mission, my joke was, I'm the main character, not Puggy. Chubby Uncle Juan is the main character, and he has this puppet. And the joke was like, look at this old man, getting the crap kicked out of him in the ring, while he's like trying, like he's living out his fantasies through this puppet, like, and it's really, and at that time Puggy was on my hand 100% of the match, and so it was like I was taking like tons of bumps, killing myself with this puppet, like doing all these wacky moves. And the joke was supposed to be kind of like, oh, this old man's getting the crap kicked out of him. It's kind of silly,
right?
Like almost, maybe he has a split personality, maybe he doesn't. Like, I don't know. And this is the true magic of Puggy, like the true magic of Puggy. We did a segment where Dad Bod broke his neck. Dad Bod was a huge heel. He broke his neck, and when he broke his neck, we stretchered him out.
Wow!
Like we brought out a stretcher, and we stretchered him out, and Puggy gave a little thumbs up. And when he did that, I instructed one of the paramedics to like grab because he had a wire in his hand. I was like, grab the wire, pick it up, because I put his hand in a thumbs up. And I was in the corner.
That's so cool.
I was in the corner the whole time. And then I did some videos. They're on YouTube. I did some videos where he's like rehabbing his neck and all this stuff. And then after that match, when he came back, I had a match later where he was supposed to tag with Chubby Uncle Juan, like as a tag team. And I was going to tell Puggy, like, it's not going to work because like the sheer logic of me and him being a tag team doesn't work. And Puggy kept asking why. And then I looked at the crowd and I said, should I tell him? Should I tell him why? Should I tell him? And the fans started to boo me. And I said, like, look, we all have to grow up sometime. I have to tell him the truth. And the fans started booing me. And then the fans started the he's a real boy chant. So the fans started chanting, he's a real boy. And from that point on, I had to change. I didn't tell him he was a puppet. And we ended up getting another partner for him, I think. But like after that point, I totally changed the mechanics of the Puggy gimmick. Like I totally changed it after that point because the fans chanted he's a real boy. So all right, from now on he's real.
It worked.
Yeah, we don't ever do puppet jokes. He's a real boy. So like the only way that it works is if everybody's in on it. So he's a real kid, somewhere in between 10 and 12. Don't make me do the math. And so he's a real kid. He goes out there and he wrestles. Chubby Uncle Juan is like ringside, for all we know, or backstage. Who knows? Wherever we need Chubby Uncle Juan. And half the time, like and once I started taking him off of me, like the sky's the limit with him. Like the matches become so much more entertaining. Like people can like give him a suplex or a body slam, and and it looks so much entertaining. And then they can like do reversals. My favorite is when I'm wrestling somebody like like Super Tiger, who's like a very seasoned professional wrestler, because they go crazy with Puggy. They let Puggy reverse into like DDTs and give him like pile drivers. Like they'll flip for the pile driver. It's crazy what these people like let Puggy do to them. It's nuts, but I love it. And so from that point on, like the fans throughout the year, like they accepted it. Like he's real. He's a real boy. And so when somebody like you, like when somebody sees Puggy for the first time, all they got to do is listen to what the fans are, how the fans are reacting, where nobody's like, oh man, this is ridiculous or this is stupid. They might say
That
this
was
is
my thought.
yeah, it definitely walking out. People are like, what is this, But once it gets going, and the fans are like into it, it's fun to believe, and
Yeah.
and in that during that segment they believe, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, and I'm curious, and I'm sure within the 8 years, having relationships with a lot of the promotions, Slam Portal and Party World, like how did that start to plant, and then how did that become to grow as you started having Puggin over with those promotions too?
Well, I was the original trainer at Party World Wrestling.
Okay.
So that's how I got in there when they had after their first show in a wrestling ring. They needed a little help learning the basics because nobody was there at the time. Nobody was trained, and
Right.
I had wrestling experience, so I helped them out. I started doing like a training seminar every week, and then I started playing a character. I played one of their evil villains who got killed off, and once he got killed off, the fella, Chris, the guy who runs Party World Wrestling, said, you're doing a great job training us. Everybody's getting better at like being more safe. I didn't necessarily train people to be wrestlers. I trained them to be safe. So I told if in the old days of PWR, you can get over through your character, but you need to at least know how to run the ropes. You need to know how to at least take a bump, and you need to know how to at least protect somebody's head if you slam them.
Right.
Because like at the beginning, Party World Wrestling definitely evolved from like a place where, they were being safe because I was teaching them those basics, but the wrestling was never like the main part of the show. It was always about the stories and the comedy and the fun and the adventure. And over time, these kids, man, they just got better and better and better. And people were like, wow, hey, I mean, this wrestling is actually really good too. And now, Party World Wrestling and Slam Portal, I'll take the Pepsi Challenge, man. Like it's some of the best wrestling you'll see in Austin, like guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that is because also a lot of wrestlers from other places are now, wanting to be part of Party World Wrestling and Slam Portal. So you have people from all different types of schools, like wrestlers. You got wrestlers here too. And you put a guy with the talent of Space Tiger Jr. in the ring with Puggy, and magic happens, And that's the best part about Slam Portal is Slam Portal and Party World Wrestling. It's so much more than wrestling. And also to another extent, I'll also bring up Fight Opera, which is the other company that I work with. Like, is that you can go see a wrestling show all around Austin. You can see wrestling shows, but you'll never see anything like Fight Opera, or you'll never see anything like Party World Wrestling or Slam Portal, because we bring something so special to the table that most wrestling companies can't do, because they're missing that magic.
Right.
You'll
see
nice
seeing.
You'll see some amazing wrestling. Austin has some amazing wrestling outside of the three I mentioned, but we got that. Yeah. We got that spark. That fun.
It's kind of interesting, and I was thinking about this too when I was watching a lot of the Slam Portal event, and especially now, and really finding your voice with Puggy. Did that build over time? And of course with the message hey, that he's a real boy kind of a bit, that kind of stuck with you, but did that voice ever change over the years?
Yeah, it definitely changed. As the years go on, I started adopting a more I guess Muppety approach where for Puggy, like lore and history isn't so important. He's kind of I feel like he's kind of like a timeless character where, I always say like, I say like he's somewhere in between. He's somewhere in between like 8 and 12 or 10 and 12.
Right.
That way, like he's never gonna like get older. And me, Chubby Uncle Juan, his character, he's somewhere in between 70 and 80. And I just
have
keep
in-ring experience, which is great.
yeah, and I just keep that age vague. So like my plan would be to straight up like my character is an old man, so my goal is to play this character up until I'm literally like a geezer, and I can still throw Puggy at people, and have fun doing that kind of stuff, and it'll be hopefully like a timeless character, and it definitely changed, like I said, because it started with as Juan as the main character, and then it kind of moved on to Puggy, kind of like how Harriet Winslow was the main character of Family Matters, and then by season 3, Urkel was the main character.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. The little kid shows up and steals your thunder.
Exactly, and I'm gonna take a little bit of a shift too, and you do a lot of comic book writing, comic book creating, and what was the one issue that made you go into comics as a reader?
Okay. So what got me into comics was the Archie Ninja Turtle adventures.
Oh.
Yes. I loved them because I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan. And the Archie Turtles were based off the cartoon. So like they looked like the cartoon. So when I was a little kid, and they sold those at like the grocery store. So I always bought those. Those were great. And once the X-Men started getting popular, I started drawing more and actually wanting to like draw stuff. And there was a character called the Max. He's an Image Comics character.
Okay.
And there's one issue when I got into middle school, there was one issue, I think it was issue 6, where on the cover he's fighting like a shark, and his whole arm is like in the shark's mouth. And so he's like punching through the shark to prevent the shark from like eating him. And I thought that cover was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And it's cemented in my head like the cover of a comic book can just like grab you, And I love that. And I started getting into comic. What else can comics do? What else can comics give me? And I just got super hooked. And then I really loved comics, but it was hard for me to get into them because growing up, there wasn't much of a comic book store in my hometown of Brownsville. Right. But once I moved to Houston for college, my dorm was actually next to Bedrock City Comics in Houston. And I would go there like every weekend, and I loved it. Just checking out everything that they had. And much like wrestling, like you can only love something so much where you just say like, can I try this thing? Can I do it? Because there's everything that you love in life, art wise, or anything you love in life is created by people, anything.
Right.
So why not give it a shot? Why not you try to be one of those people, And so I tried that. I tried it with comics. I tried it with wrestling. My day job is in video games. So I work in video games all day. And it's just a lot of fun to create. I'm a natural storyteller. I just love telling stories. I'm the guy at the parties who's always, shooting the shit, trying to make people laugh. The things that I love doing is wrestling and comics because I can tell stories, and that's my favorite thing to do. Puggy had a story where he was trying to find a tag team partner,
right,
for a whole year, and he lost every single match because he would get a different tag partner and they would lose, and so he lost for a whole year, and then finally, after the first time Chubby and Juan told him no. Then he settled. He's like, you have to be my tag team partner. So I actually did like 2 or 3 matches with Chubby Uncle Juan and Puggy as tag partners.
Right.
And it was so fun. Like the stories we told with those characters, with those matches were a lot of fun because Chubby Uncle Juan didn't know how to wrestle. So he would, so his job was to go in and get the shit kicked out of him, and then do the hot
Mhm.
tag, which was a lot of fun. And one time it's good. Like I laid a story out one time. I was like, Chobin Gohan finally learned a wrestling move, and I just laid it out for the fans. Like, I learned a body slam, and I'm gonna do a body slam in this match. And he tried it 3 times in the match and failed. On the third one, he finally succeeded. And because I did it twice and failed, and then did it the third time and finally succeeded, the fans went, "You!" It was like as if the dude was Andre the Giant, Like I finally,
That would not surprise me.
and the people at Fort Tap went nuts. And then they started laughing because I started pointing at my back, like, oh, I kind of fucked my back up, doing the body slam because I'm old. And then I tag out to Puggy, and then he goes and clears house.
Yeah.
It for me, it's all about storytelling, whether it's comics or wrestling. It's about making people happy, especially like folks who got jobs that mean something.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to this guy when Puggy lost the belt. This dude went backstage, and he was he was like a criminal lawyer or something.
Wow.
And the dude was dressed as Puggy. He had the orange beanie and the shirt and the shorts. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm a lawyer, and I help people out, blah blah blah, who need help." And my job is really hard, and I just love coming to the show and seeing Puggy. It's just so much.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it feels really cool to hear that kind of stuff. Where certain people who help society, go around, function, as entertainers, you help them function, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm curious because I'm going to bring up Mashbone and Grifty and doing your own stuff. And as a reader, now that you're doing the comic creations, that must have been a really good feeling to doing your stuff on your own and basing off of a lot of the creations that you've read.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mashbone and Grifty is definitely a lot like Puggy in that they don't look like they're supposed to be doing what they're doing. It's very different. Like, so Mashbone and Grifty is a story about these two dummies who haven't done anything with their lives. They're in their late 20s, and they decide to become private detectives by just printing out a bunch of flyers around town and saying, "If you need help, we'll help. We're private detectives." But the problem is they live in a town that's run by organized crime. The cops are on the take, the government's on the take, and so everybody's scared to actually ask for help. So people start flocking to these guys because they're so desperate, and they immediately run afoul of the organized crime syndicate, and they somehow manage to survive. And from that point on, they get more clients and they get more into their head, and they're completely without experience. They don't know what they're doing, and the goofiness, since it's a comic book, Mashbone, as his name would dictate, he is a hairy humanoid monkey creature with a bone sticking through his skull. He's very odd, and nobody, since it's a comic, nobody really points that out. It's just a thing. He's just a weirdo, and that came from, and so he's the ultimate outsider. He doesn't look like he fits in. He doesn't feel like he fits in. For the storyline purposes, it's a little obvious why, but he does what he does because he cares about helping people, and that's kind of the same thing as Puggy. He doesn't. I didn't build a little wrestler man. I didn't build a wrestler, a wrestler puppet. I built a puppet of like a child, and then put him in the ring. The joke would have been more obvious if I did build like a wrestler puppet, but no, it's he's a boy and he's entering a man's world, and he's fitting in just fine because he has heart, he has grit. He wants to help people. Those are the best stories when Puggy wants to help people. And that is it's just something that really that I really love. The stories that I love to tell is the story of the outsiders, people who don't necessarily look or feel like they fit in, but they should. They should. Everybody should have a chance to fit in.
Exactly. And Mashbone and Grifty's already out on everywhere, and thank you so much, Oscar, for having you on. And I want to end the conversation with this. Whenever I have guests, I want to ask this question. And the World Health Organization listed adolescents between the ages of 10 and 19. And people tend to pick things up within those age ranges. Now, if you're in the same room as a young Oscar Garza, and I'll let you choose the age. So I'll just say it like this. If you're in the same room as young Oscar Garza at the age of blank, what would you like to talk to him about?
If I was with a young Oscar at the age of 17, I would tell him that it's going to be okay. And follow your dreams, and they will happen whether they happen or not. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They will happen whether they happen or not. When I was a kid, when I was young, I wanted to be like a famous comic book guy, and I wanted to be a famous wrestler. Did those things happen the way that society dictates they should happen? Am I in WWE? No. Do I write for Marvel? No. But do I have comic books for sale on Amazon? Yes. And am I wrestling, every couple weeks to freaking giant crowds in Austin, Texas, doing the wackiest shit? I'm literally doing it on my own terms.
Right.
I don't have to compete with the super athletic wrestlers. I got my real boy. And my real boy brings the girls to the yard or whatever. People love Puggy. And they love Puggy the way that I would have loved people to love me as a wrestler. And Puggy's me, so it works. I love it.
There you go.
I absolutely love what I do. And it's nothing like what I wanted as a kid, but it's everything. It's everything that I wanted.
Exactly. And we'll end the conversation here. Thank you so much, Oscar, for having you on. And after hearing especially your story and how Puggy, and now that you're doing your own thing in the comic book world, you're living the dream. And of course, every dream, there's a lot of hard work, and having a following on social media with not only with Puggy and with the comic book side, like you're gaining a lot of a following when that happens. So I really wanted to really thank you so much for having this conversation with you. And of course, where can we find you? If there's anything that you would like to promote or plug, you have the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You can find Puggy at Puggy Wrestler on Instagram. You can find our comic books at 5 Meets, both on Twitter and on Instagram. Mashbone and Grifty Volume 1, that's very important. Mashbone and Grifty Volume 1 is on Amazon right now. You can get that. And it's a hell of a time. It's the best comic book you've ever read. Action-packed action comedy, tons of dick and fart jokes, and
of course.
and it's a lot of fun. And it's very great. So at 5 Meets, at Puggy Wrestler.